The main reason why I kept on going was because I knew that consistency builds momentum. That is the only way you get better. And I learned that from my days at the gym. I'm like a powerlifter. I used to be competitive powerlifter. And I knew that the only way to get better at things is just by every single day, trying your very best to be that 1% better.
Lara Acosta, the UK's top female LinkedIn creator and self-confessed accidental entrepreneur. After hundreds of employers turned her down, she created a niche and business for herself, utilising her skills for storytelling. Now, she's one of the top LinkedIn creators in the world and speaks at the biggest content events.
Because people don't need more mentors or coaches, they need better friends.
Getting around the right people.
That hits deep because we are so sold on this idea that you need to hire this, you need a big team, you need more people around you. And in reality, when you have such a large network of people that know what they're doing, they could give you advice for free without you having to spend so much money on hiring the wrong people that have the wrong intentions. Because there's this thing called the winning effect, where you have your first big win. And that impulses you to keep on trying. Because if you fail too much too early, you're not gonna wanna keep on trying because you think you're just bad at it. But the thing is, most people aren't bad at things, they're just new at them, right? And so you just need to give yourself that time frame of knowing when to start and when you should be stopping.
I've got a quick favour to ask you. Nearly 90% of people listening to this podcast right now don't follow or subscribe to us. And my goal is to get that down to 80%. So if you've ever liked an episode or a clip that we've put out, please could you click that follow or subscribe button. It helps us more than you know to bring more guests onto the podcast and put out better and better content for you. Thank you. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a second to speak about our sponsor, Pith Stem, who we are thrilled to have on this journey with us. As someone who is always looking for ways to improve my healthy hustle, Pith Stem's DropTop desk stood out to me as the best full work-from-home solution on the market. The world of work from home is changing, and a laptop or screen perched on your lap or dining room table isn't enough anymore. It's imperative that we have a solution at home that matches our productivity station that we can have in our office. But of course, homes weren't made to be worked in, and not all of us want a dedicated study. That's why I'm so happy that Pith Stem created this perfect solution. They designed this desk with both the needs of the professional and their home in mind. It's perfect because it allows me to have a full productivity station that suits my needs and helps me get the most out of every minute that I spend at it, not only so I work comfortably, but that I actually enjoy it. And the best thing about DropTop, I can close and lock it at the end of the day to keep work and home separate. And it looks awesome on the wall. You can get your DropTop desk anywhere in the world from pithandstem.com or just Google DropTop and you'll find it pretty quickly. So Lara, you spend a lot of time helping other people understand and their value in their story. But what I wanted to ask you to start with is, where does your story start?
Where does it start? It starts when I booked a one-way ticket flight from Mexico to London, and I never looked back. I came to study for 1 year, and it was only meant to be 1 year in the UK, and I ended up staying 11, and that's where the story unfolds.
No worries. Okay, so why did you book? Why was it the UK you wanted to come to?
So my parents knew that Mexico wasn't in alignment with who I was. My dad is a massive manifesting guy. Like, he has visualized my entire life, word by word, step by step, day by day. There's days where I'm walking around London and I'll send a photo to him and he'll be like, I literally manifested you being right there, right then, doing this thing that you're doing right now. And my dad used to live in London. He went to the London School of Economics. And when he was in England, he just knew that his child would be living that life that he was currently living, but to a full potential. So it starts there because Mexico was just never in alignment with me. Ever since I left, I've never felt more myself than when I was living back home. So I just knew, like, instantly. So many people ask me, were you ever homesick? And my answer was never. The first day I arrived to England, I just felt like I was free. And I love that feeling so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. So if your dad, I've heard you talk about manifestation before and like how a lot of the stuff you sort of want to happens because you work towards it through manifestation. How do you think your parents or your father specifically brought you up with that mentality? Like, if you want something, you can go after it. If you visualize what's going to happen, you can go towards it.
I would describe my dad as a divine man. He is so in his feminine and masculine that he can truly, he raised me to be a free child. So there was never any restrictions on what I should do or how I could think or any limiting beliefs he instilled in me. Everything was possible as long as I put in the work. My dad is an entrepreneur and he was working a 9-to-5 before, so he knows both worlds. And everything he's gotten out of his life has been through simply thinking about it and then doing the thing. So he grew up very poor, and now today he's like extremely successful as a businessman. He worked in the Bank of Mexico. He was great. He ended up like scaling up to director level, I think, all through just simply doing one thing, and was keeping focus on one single goal, which was being the best version of himself. So that, seeing my dad doing that by himself taught me more than anything he could ever teach me. So kids don't do what you tell them to do, they do what you do. And so I just looked at my dad every single day as like from a child to now, and I just do what he does, and it's just simply do things and see what works. And if it doesn't work, then you pivot. I've seen my dad fail so many times. Like he retired from work, and then he started new businesses. Obviously, not all of them succeeded, but I remember the ones that did. But he sat me down the other day and he told me like, yeah, do you not remember this business and this business and this business? And I'm like, oh yeah. But then he pivoted so quickly that it's just a blur in my mind.
Like a classic entrepreneur. So he just threw enough stuff at the wall until it would stick. But this is also what you've done, right? We'll get into this later, but you threw stuff at the wall until something stuck. And then as soon as it started to really work, you really rallied behind it. So what were some of the skills that he instilled in you as a kid? Because obviously writing must be a massive one, but also strategy. Like you're able to think quite deeply about where things are going. Is there something in your childhood or upbringing where you're like, he taught me to write or to journal or to think deeply about the next steps?
My dad taught me gratitude for life. It wasn't a hard skill. He taught me every single soft skill I could ever learn: how to be patient, how to be a good person, how to be grateful, how to be in alignment with yourself, and most importantly, how to be authentic. For so long, everybody talks about being authentic on social media, but true authenticity is only gained through understanding who you really are. You're very, very cool. And for me, I was always different because my parents are just different. I was brought up in Mexico, but I was vegan, and I was spiritual instead of Christian. My dad was giving me business books instead of like normal drama books. I wasn't allowed to go out partying, but I was allowed to go to networking events. And that in me still there's like a self that is very different. And the moment I accepted who I was, maybe weird, quiet, sarcastic, not that outgoing, but simply simply myself, is where I started to truly shine. And my dad is just so authentic and true to himself, true to his word, and he will never break his values. They're so enforced in me, and following that and knowing that he has that and now I have that too is what's helped me the most. It's not copywriting, it's not sales, it's not even networking. It's simply knowing who you are, where your values are, and everything just comes as a result.
I think that's so true. What do you think when someone on social media says be authentic, what do you think they actually mean?
Post a selfie, post on your stories like what you're doing on a day. That's just so authentic. Wake up in the morning, 6 a.m. No, that's like the truest piece of bullshit I've ever had in my life, and I hate it. I hate the be authentic type of content that we see online. The most authentic people that you see online will never, ever, ever speak about authenticity as much as people that aren't authentic. I've seen this happen so many times. There's way too many narcissists online talking about how to be authentic. This is how I'm authentic. Share your failures. But they never once share a failure. They share a failure that is good to them, that makes them look good. Oh my God. So I'm going to be super honest with you guys. I'm being authentic right now, and I'm going to say that I didn't close a 6-figure deal. I closed a 7-figure deal. And it is just that is not what authenticity is. Authenticity isn't oversharing. Authenticity is simply being you, and that's it, an open book. Hey, what happened this week? Okay, my client fired me. That's fine. Am I going through it? Yeah, but I also want to get through it before I want to teach it. So the moments where I feel the most authentic is where I'm simply saying, I'm shit at writing, but I just learned that because I had to. I'm not like, oh yeah, I read so many copywriting books and I just knew it was my purpose. I didn't become a good writer because I wanted to write. I became a good writer because I was going to fail everything else if I didn't do it. That is the most authentic answer I could give you. But truly, some people are very scared of being seen as weak, that they hide that in the shadows and kind of like dress it up as something else. And that is not authentic at all.
I think it's such a good point, because I think there's so much noise online right now, and people think that by saying they're being authentic, they're going to stand out, but they just blend in more, right? And we can get into this, because there's levels of this in online. But if you're trying to be authentic without showing your actual failures, you're just blending into the crowd, which is the opposite of what you're trying to do. It just goes back to, like Gary Vee said, 15 years ago, just document. If you document stuff that's going on, your failures and your wins, people buy into the person, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if you I love that example of, I didn't get a 6-figure deal, because I see that every single day on podcasts or LinkedIn or wherever it might be. People are like, oh no, do you know what? Something's happened that's bad, and in actual fact, they want a pat on the back, right? Okay, so I love that part of authenticity. That's so good. When you came to the UK, what were you going to study? What was the thing you were going to do?
I was doing my GCSEs.
Okay.
And,
so a broad plethora of different things.
Yeah, I didn't even know what GCSEs were. So they made me pick my GCSEs, and it was English, Spanish, maths, geography, and I think business and economics. So I did that, and it was interesting. The education system in the UK is definitely messed up, but that is everywhere. And being at school in the UK taught me not like how to do the things, but actually how to communicate with people. I'm so grateful that I studied here, but I didn't enjoy my educational experience at all. But I never did anyway, so that's fine. It's not just the UK, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I in my second year of uni, I went to France for 1 semester, and on the international course, there was loads of people from Mexico City and Guadalajara.
Oh, okay.
And I've never seen people work so hard. Their work ethic was unreal, and they were at the top of the class. Because it's a good system. The Mexican system's a good system, but their work ethic, I think, was way better than the French or the British system in terms of university level. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you can beat someone who works really hard. Like Hormozy says it quite often, right? It's really hard to beat the person that turns up every single day, which I guess brings me to consistency, because I want to know how you first got into the online business space and LinkedIn specifically, but how did consistency play a path to that? How consistently did you turn up based on what your dad had said to you to get towards whatever your goals might have been?
Well, my dad had actually no say on what I did in business. I actually saw him and I hated everything he did. Because when you look at an entrepreneur from the outside, what do you see? You see long hours, you see no social life, you see endless working days, and it never ends. And there's you're never satisfied. And that's what I saw in my dad. And I didn't understand that. I'm like, how can someone possibly start a business that they love and then work at it every single day like maniacs? It doesn't make sense. I thought business owners were able to chill on the beach and go on holiday and all of these things. And so I made a promise to myself that I would never be an entrepreneur. My parents wanted me to study business and all of these things because they knew it was such a big leverage point for anyone to know the basics of business. But I just wanted to be a personal trainer. I wanted to be working law. I wanted to have a 9-to-5. I wanted the opposite of what my dad did. So everything that my dad told me to do, I did the opposite. Because that's what kids do anyway.
Totally.
Or teenagers or even young adults. I was like, no, you don't tell me what to do. I know you don't know what's best for me, and I'm not going to do any of that. So instead of listening to my dad, I tried online business, not because I wanted online business as a career, because I wanted online business to be part of my CV so I could prove to this companies that I had experience so they could hire me. So it was never a grand plan to become an entrepreneur. I am the most accidental entrepreneur you'll ever find. I never, ever wanted to be one. But I think as a result of that, it came so naturally because I was not following the money. I was following a desire to become a better person. And that just came as a result of learning new skills. And so how I ended up on LinkedIn, it was because I needed a job. I needed a reference, either or, And so when I was applying to my master's degree, to get into Exeter University, one of my dream universities, I needed a reference. And that single search for a reference led me to kind of like study the algorithm. I am very social media savvy, like anyone my age. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm going to try and make this look nice. So I researched, I looked, I was like, okay, so this kind of like works like Instagram now. That's kind of weird. I thought this was a boring platform. And then in just the effort to try and get a good reference, I posted my first LinkedIn post. I never got a reference, but I went crazy viral and it changed my life. And that's how I ended up on this journey.
So what did that first post say? Was you obviously trying to build your CV, which is a great idea, but what did that first post say? And why do you think it went so viral? This is like 4 years ago?
It's 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years ago. So the first post was an introduction post. Why did I write that? Because I had been studying the algorithm like crazy. So I knew that there was a pattern between some sort of storytelling, people being honest and vulnerable, and just kind of like introducing themselves to the platform, right? Why did this work on LinkedIn? Still works to this day because LinkedIn wants to push more people to be on LinkedIn. What's the best way to get more people on LinkedIn? Get people to talk on LinkedIn about LinkedIn and how they're enjoying their experience there. So I saw that it was literally a pattern. I'm very good at pattern analysis and reverse engineering just because naturally you do that when you're like trying to research what's the fastest way to do something, right? Every single entrepreneur knows how to reverse engineer. You like then learn, you test, and you iterate when it comes to stuff like this. So I did that. I researched all the best platforms, all the best accounts, and saw that pattern, posted that first post. I got my mom, I wrote the post, and then I took my mom, I got her to take me because I had no money, to a cafe where I was pretending to work like a typical freelancer, living the remote work lifestyle. I didn't have it, but I was faking it till I made it, right? And I remember taking that photo and I hated how I looked. I was 63 kilos, 12 kilos overweight. I was obviously unemployed. I felt like a failure. It was during the pandemic. And I think that was my last shot of feeling like I could be something. I could be someone for my parents. I could prove my dad that I have it in me and I'm not a waste of time, right? So I think it was like, it's woo-woo, but it was like the energetic alignment of like, this is my last try and let's just go balls to the wall and try to do this thing. And so post that first post, it was an immediate success.
And how many followers did that post get you?
I can't remember, about 5,000,
It's a lot.
300,000 impressions, 4,000 likes.
Which for people are paying a lot of money for these days, so that's valuable stuff. But what I think is really interesting from that story is that at a young age, you felt like it was your last chance, right? But I would love you to explain that. But the way I hear that is like, you almost see that you're going to get into this corporate career, like you're going for the corporate career, and therefore maybe that in your mind was your last chance because you're going to get sucked in for the next 20 if you didn't give something a go before you had the pressure of society and bills or whatever. Is that anything to do with how you felt?
No, not
okay,
at all.
I've got it completely wrong.
No,
You
no,
go
no.
ahead.
I wanted to be in the rat race so bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the dream in the rat race?
Well, I didn't even know what the rat race was. Like, to me, it just felt like something stable. I think there's this level of privilege, and you touched on it briefly when you were talking about the Mexicans in your school in Paris, in France. They're so hardworking in comparison to everyone else because when you come from a third world country, you only have one chance. We don't have redos of many things. We don't have the access to different European cities. The people that were studying with you at your school, they were probably in massive scholarships. Their parents were going into massive debt to getting their kids to go there. Or those kids were like literally living on pennies, trying to make it out there. And just for the sake of being there for like a few weeks or like even months, just to live that single dream for like a little bit. And I think that is rooted in every single Mexican or even immigrant, that we know we have one chance at things and then it can be gone forever. There's like a very big parallel between people in Europe and people from Latin America, because a lot of people can't take things for granted. I never took a career for granted. I wanted safety, I wanted stability. And my entire life has been so unstable from the moment I got into England. Yes, it had been a dream, but it's also like consistent, limbo of like, I don't know if I can live this dream any longer. Like, what can I do? So it is that in alignment to why I wanted to go in the rat race. It didn't feel like this, waste of time or like thing. It just felt like the best thing I could do for myself, and how I could sustain a good life that could potentially give me access to going to work in Paris, going to work in London, all of these things, and access to, the right connections, the right people. I didn't have that. I never had that. So I have that now because I built it from scratch. But it came through, again, just knowing that I had one golden ticket. And that golden ticket to me felt like that 9 to 5, but then it turned into LinkedIn by such a blessing.
It's such a good way of looking at it, actually. Like, you just saw the opportunity. Because most people, almost regardless of where you're from, they won't take their opportunities. They'll just go, something else will come along later. Whereas if you just take it, especially when you're young, you've got so much time to fail. And maybe you won't, maybe you will. But the whole point is that if you've taken it, you've taken it. So when you first had that post go viral, what was your thought process to go, I should keep doing this, or there's something in this?
How do I know? Okay, well, I think that the main reason why I kept on going was because, again, I knew that consistency builds momentum. That is the only way you get better. And I learned that from my days at the gym. I'm like a powerlifter. I used to be competitive powerlifter. And I knew that the only way to get better at things is just by showing up every single day, trying your very best to be that 1% better. So if you implement it to all areas of life, including business or like your career, then I knew I was going to see an incremental change. So I'm not the most patient person, so I gave myself a deadline. I'm like, I'm going to try this for 3 months. And if it doesn't work, then I'll try and go back and get a job, right? The initial goal, though, was obviously getting that reference for university. So I was deeply seeking that. And then in turn, I was like, I'll give this 3 months, the time that it takes me to get the reference and apply to university, because obviously university applications close at some point. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it this time frame. And if I can't get anything from this, then I'll go back on my job search and I'll just like assume this new current reality, which is living the life that I was meant to be living, which was a 9 to 5, or applying for a job and working a job that I hated. That's fine. Like I was ready to assume that role because I had failed so much already that I just knew like it's done, So then what led me to post more was definitely that first post, because there's this thing called the winning effect, where you have your first big win. And that impulses you to keep on trying, because if you fail too much too early, you're not going to want to keep on trying because you think you're just bad at it. But the thing is, most people aren't bad at things. They're just new at them, right? And so you just need to give yourself that time frame of knowing when to start and when you should be stopping, and to prove yourself that you can actually do it, or if you're just simply not meant to be doing that thing.
And when you say set, like you said, 3 months to see if I can make a success of it, would you at the start have set goals to say this is what success looks like?
Yeah, obviously I wanted to go viral. Like I love dopamine more than anyone else. Like I am a dopamine junkie. So like I wanted that viral post because I knew if certain posts had gone viral and I saw what the frameworks they were using, what the photos they were using, what the topics they were talking about, and I couldn't replicate that, I just knew I wasn't going to be making it in the social media game. Because if you can't replicate virality on social media, then you're not gonna be able to scale that quickly. And I'm very much 0 to 100. Like I'm not gonna settle for like the middle ground. If it's the middle ground, I'm gonna quit because I don't like that. I like quick success, very fast, very easy. Same with powerlifting. I lifted like a very good deadlift like first few weeks, and so that impulsed me to actually get better. I lost weight quite quickly as well. So then that reaffirms in your head that you're actually in the right place, Some people could say it's God, some people can say it's spirituality, some people can just say it's like luck and coincidence. All of those things combined, you just know you're in the right place. So I just knew there was like a specific time that I just could know for a fact that it was in God's plan or in the universe to lead me to this path.
Let's link the powerlifting thing in there, because I think it's a really cool part of your journey. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say the authenticity word. I'm not talking about that. But the whole point of powerlifting and your journey linked together was really interesting, because you showed yourself in a vulnerable place and then built up towards it. I don't know how involved Jodie Cook was in this, right? Because she's obviously ridiculous at powerlifting. But what are the similarities between what you do in your powerlifting competitions to what you're doing in the business world? Because they are kind of linked.
Yeah. I think so. There's this quote that resonated a lot with me a really long time ago from my friend Nimai Delgado, and he used to say every single morning, success is never earned, is rented. You earn your place every single day, so get the reps in, something like that. And so, like I did on the platform or at the gym, I will show up with nothing. You start at 0 and you leave at 100. Every single day when I come to social media, I start from 0. Everyone now thinks that because I have so many followers, I can just cruise with the social media content. I can just repost content. I can just do the thing and it gets 1,000 likes. That could be true, but I also know that that could so easily go away. Same with lifting. Your gains can go if you stop going to the gym for 1 week. I know that because I've experienced it before. And if it's something like the gym in life, you just need to show up and be as humble as you can with the art. You know, there's this amazing quote in the Daily Stoic, is "Love the humble art" by Marcus Aurelius. And to me, that signifies that your art, you need to treat it like it's the thing that it's never granted. You don't have it. You're getting there, but you don't have it. You never have it. Everything in your life can be stripped away from you at any point, you know? So I do my best to just simply be in the present and enjoy that so much. And that in powerlifting and in business.
So you enjoyed the game?
I love the game and I play every day.
I love that. I love when people love the game, that like their goal is not to make 100 million or to get this many followers. They're like, I'm actually just here for the game. And like, I think Hormozy is the best at saying that. Like, he sits in a very small office, does nothing exciting, but he just wants to build his stuff. And I'm sure he does off of it. He's got a very big social media team. I'm sure he does other stuff that he likes to do, but his story is that he loves the game, right? I think that's really interesting. And like what you said there, the thing about powerlifting or high rocks or CrossFit or whatever sport you do is it doesn't matter how much success you've had outside the gym, someone's going to humble you in the gym. And probably the weights are probably going to hurt you one day. So how has that been a distraction for you, a positive distraction for you? When you're running the business and things get stressful and you lose clients, win clients, whatever it might be, how did it help you on that journey to be able to go to the gym and be like, okay, today I need to get 5 of 5, or I need to get a PB on a snatch, or whatever it might be? How did that benefit your mindset on the growth journey? It
did well for me long enough, but to me the compounding effects of lifting had already worn off by the time I started business, because when you start lifting, you get this incremental change in your life, in your mindset and in your body, right? But then there comes to a point at the 2-year mark where you're gone past the baby gains and you stop making those massive incremental changes that are like 10%, 20%, 30%. Yeah. You do the 0.1, 0.1. So by the time I started business, powerlifting actually had become quite exhausting for me to actually keep doing at the scale as I was doing. Powerlifting is one of the most exhausting sports that I've ever encountered, not because it's hard, but because it's long.
I just want to briefly interrupt this podcast so I can talk to you about Nutrition Kitchen, who have kindly sponsored this episode. As entrepreneurs who are looking to stay as healthy as possible, fueling ourselves with high quality food without breaking the bank or wasting time can be tough day to day. Nutrition Kitchen solves that issue by delivering incredible meals to your door, tailored to your diet, whether you're trying to lose weight, build muscle, or maintain balance. They change their menus all the time so you can choose from a variety of dishes and leave the monotony of meal prepping behind. Now, back to our guest.
You need to do a lot of heavy weights at low reps, and it's just mentally exhausting. So I actually had to quit powerlifting a year ago because it just didn't satisfy that urge of having that mental break. It actually was adding more to my stress. And in my opinion, and this might be a little bit controversial, like powerlifting is just quite a masculine sport, regardless of, like gender, everything else. It is a masculine sport because you're lifting weights at like such a heavy weight, and like, you need a lot of like anger and stress. And I was already leaning so much on my masculine energy at business that I needed to find something that was balancing my female and like masculine. And then I found running. So last year, I think I went through a really dark period in my life where I had this thing, it's called, I think it's called bronze medal syndrome, or like silver medal syndrome, where people that win a silver medal at the Olympics, they get depressed because they obviously didn't get the gold or something like that. And so in business, I got my first win, like very, very big win, very like heavy cash month, like a lot of profit. And I got to the top of the mountain and I just didn't feel like it. You know, you work so hard to get to this point and then you get there and you don't feel like it still. Because then you realize it's not about the goal, it's about the journey to get there and the fact that you maybe didn't enjoy it or you think you could have done better, right? So I went through that period and I was talking to my mentor and I felt really sad and I felt really depressed and I had everything that I ever wanted, yet I didn't feel enough. And that is one of the worst things that could happen to an entrepreneur because it can make or break you. It could send you into like a really strong spiral of depression, or it could just influence you to push even more and like realign yourself. So luckily for me, I'm surrounded by some of the best people in the industry. One of them is my mentor, Richard Moore, and he told me, go for a run then. It was 12 in the evening. Like, I was like, what do you mean go for a run? He's like, the roads are never closed. And so
deep. I like that.
Huh?
That's deep. I like that.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. And I was like, fuck, okay, I have nothing to lose. So I went for a run, back and forth, 5K. And I gained that strength back that I was lacking, that inspiration, that freedom, and that, you know, I can do something. So then 2 months later, I ended up signing up for my first marathon out of nowhere. And I ended up running it a few months later. It was hard, but it gave me what I was lacking, which was a different set of goals that aren't just business money oriented, but they're also mindset and life and also fitness.
Yeah.
Which is super important. And I think every single entrepreneur should have two goals. One of them is business and one of them is fitness. Brilliant.
Yeah, because then together that's life. For some people, not for everyone. Which was the marathon you did?
Barcelona marathon in March.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was warm.
Yeah, it was great.
That's insane.
The
That's
best first marathon I could have done.
And you hadn't really run before? Doing a 5K, it's 2 months later doing a marathon in Barcelona. That's pretty intense.
The way this happened was it was I think coming into New Year's resolution, something like that. I can't remember when I started running specifically, but then I hopped on a call with that prospect and he wanted one-to-one coaching, right? And so I was like big boss trying to set the frame, and I was like, I run, by the way. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm running as well. I think I'm gonna run my first marathon this year. And he goes, when? And I'm like, oh, I don't know yet. Obviously, I have to get signs like, oh, well, I'm running this marathon in Barcelona in March this day. Do you want to come? And I'm trying to close a deal, you know? I'm big boss here, not him. Stop trying to, change the frame. And so just me so strong in my frame, I was like, yeah, okay. So he's like, I'll pay for the retainer and I'll also get you the marathon tickets. Just send me your passport. So he could buy the tickets and they registered me. Next thing I know, I'm on my way to run a marathon. So I think life has such a funny way of delivering you things that you ask for. I was asking for strength and I was asking for better company. I was asking for a purpose. And you expect purpose to come to you in a silver platter, like, oh yeah, here it is. This is what you need to do. God is not going to give you a plan. He's going to deliver things in the most unexpected way. And you just need to take them. And so that was me taking the chance. And luckily for me, I did, because running has literally changed the way I see myself, has allowed me to be in flow. I feel a lot lighter and I feel a lot happier. And I've also met so many other friends. And on top of that, running a marathon gives you so much self-respect and so much discipline that I was missing from the powerlifting days, because there's an inflection point with powerlifting where the tracking the macros, the lifting the weights, the getting to that 140 kilo deadlift is just no longer satisfying. It's just like, oh, I did that. But then a new challenge with running was the thing that really helped me.
So you got the client, but you also got the accountability of setting the success. That's wicked. I really like that, because I'm not a massive runner. We have to run a little bit for CrossFit and High Rocks, but I'm not massive into it. My brother lives in London, and he's really into running. He's like the same height as me, but just runs like a gazelle. It makes it look easy. And
running around London is also very beautiful. You could go from city to the most beautiful historic place you've ever seen in no time. Yeah. So definitely an advantage.
So he lives in Hammersmith and he works in Shoreditch. So he cycles or runs to and from work, and you go past probably the coolest places in the world. Yeah. So motivating. Yeah. But what I was going to say was I think a lot of running is actually just a mindset test as well. Not just a mindset test, but it's massive on the mindset. On Christmas Eve last year, 2 months ago, month ago, one of my neighbours, I said to him, I really want to run a half marathon before my birthday in end of March. And I was like, the furthest I've run is like 6-7 miles, like maybe like a high rocks is what, 8K, but in little increments. He was like, I guarantee we can do it tomorrow morning if we just go around the park together. And I was like, I can't. Christmas Eve, 5 a.m, we were there and we did it. Did the whole thing. And I was like, that was in my head. That was all in my head. And you're running past the Atlantis, the new Atlantis.
Yeah.
But it was genuinely in
It's
your
all
head.
straight, no? As well.
It's a big curve.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to look at really.
Yeah.
Just like moaning it to myself the whole way around. But it is mindset. And I think, you know, we've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs on this podcast. A lot of them have sold businesses. They've built up for 10, 20 years, had a massive exit and then left. And the ones that didn't have a mentor telling them to have something to do next, all told the story of becoming depressed or losing their family or, you know, really becoming upset. So I think it's so cool at a young age that you've gone for the mentor and he's already given you something that's gone, you know, I've seen you do this before in the powerlifting, but actually try something else. And also running's massive in London, right? So you're seeing people do it all the time.
Yeah.
There's loads of running people with the sunglasses and the socks and the Hokas and the 247 team
The
stuff.
whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So how important is running to you now? Do you still run consistently? Is it still part of your routine?
If I don't run, my head will explode. Like, I didn't bring my running shoes because I was like, I'll buy new ones, and I couldn't get them. And so I found myself being very like aggy, stressed, angry, you know, anxious. And I was like, oh, I haven't run. So definitely something that is part of like, it puts me in a meditative state where it's not a supplement or a replacement for meditation, but it's definitely a complement to what a mindful life has become to me, because you get to reflect, or you just get to switch off, or there's something else, or you're just focusing on something very basic like 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot. Like, that is, so many of us, especially in the entrepreneurship space, don't rest enough, or we don't switch off enough. And I think when you're forcing yourself to do something that has nothing to do with work, which is very hard, especially when you're working in social media where everything can be turned into work quite easily. A YouTube video can be turned into market research. A coffee chat can be turned into a business deal. So when you find something that has nothing to do with what you're meant to be doing for business, then it's the best thing.
When you're stuck there for like 2 or 3 hours, you've got nothing else to do but go left, right, left, right. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm trying to link that back to your business now, right? So you're working with some really cool people on the LinkedIn space, coaching them how to do it, whatever. What's the common blocker that you see people who've already found success, but not on LinkedIn? So they've got their other business, they want to become a bit more well-known on LinkedIn. What's the most common blocker that you see for those people?
Their ego.
Interesting. So what's happening with their ego that's stopping them from being successful online?
Most successful entrepreneurs feel like they already earned their seat at the table, and they have, right? But social media is an algorithmic game. And a lot of them refuse to play the game because it's not authentic to them. They don't need to do this all over again. Why do they need to dumb themselves down? Why does this type of content work? I really want more depth. And so they refuse to play a game that's as old as I know it. Like, it's always been the same. But they refuse it because they think that people should already know them, that they shouldn't, change what they say just to get more virality or likes, that the right people will find them. And that is correct. 100% I agree in the real world, but we're on social media. And so a lot of people refuse to see that, where you have to play the game to win. Like they did in business, it's also on social media. And hence why the people that have the least experience possible with the worst case studies and the worst results and everything else are winning because they know how to hack the game. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Jodie Cook so much was I've known her from before. Like, she's always been a very big inspiration for me. And I actually reached out to her when I was at university, and I was trying to juggle both powerlifting still and business. And I was like, I don't know how to do both and also be a girl and also be a student. And she's like, it's not gonna be easy. And then she gave me like a full thing, and then she was inspiring me with her words. And I was like seeing all of these people, including myself, growing on social media with less experience than her. And I was like, you could do such a net benefit to girls my age because you're so inspirational. You have so much to say. You're a woman in business, and that's very rare to find. You're a successful woman in business as well. And you're not like fluffy. You're not like cutesy. You're just like strong-minded, very successful. I am very inspired. Please. And I asked her, please come onto LinkedIn. And she was like, oh, I already have Twitter, I already have Forbes, and I just don't really feel like I need another platform. And so I think our conversation simmered for a bit, and she was like, hey, I think I want to try this LinkedIn thing. Can you help me? And I was like, of course. And so I did a lot of like free work for her. I had no issues. Like free work is the best thing that you could do actually for yourself. People think that you shouldn't be doing free work and like, oh my God, you should getting paid. But like that's the biggest like lie people tell freelancers or students or anyone else. Do the free work because it's gonna get you places. Paid work will never get you into, right? So that's a little tangent. But then obviously Jody, like she was so humble with it. She's like, hey, okay, I don't know what's going on. You know, I really like Twitter, but that's also like not growing right now. And I was like, okay, let's talk about this, this, and this. And she's like, fine, let's play the game. She was like, she literally is in the game as much as I am. She loves like, we talk about Sims, you know, the simulator game.
Yeah.
And then I'm always like, I'm in the London simulator game. And she's like, I'm in the traveling simulator game. So she understood the game because we have to play certain characters in order to scale. And so we played the AI game for her because I knew that that's what she had. And that's what we could potentialize, like double down on. And then we did. We ended up blowing her LinkedIn up like in literally 42 hours. So
You flew out to go and help her?
yeah, I did. Yeah. From London to Spain. She was like, hey, can you come? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I literally only went there to shout at her about LinkedIn. And then it worked.
So there's two things that I think are really interesting there. One is that, oh, actually there's three, because the ego thing I think is really interesting. The second one is that I think people that don't know how to use LinkedIn, and then someone like you comes along and is able to play around with different parts and then blow them up or make them more known. I think that's super interesting. But the third one I want to start with is, how did you know at such a young age that you needed a mentor? Or were you just reaching out to someone that you just inspired you? You weren't thinking about mentorship?
I never reached out to my mentor. He reached out to me.
What about Jodie though?
Jodie wasn't a mentor. She was just a friend.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, and one of my friends, Darren, literally said this, people don't need more mentors or coaches. They need better friends.
Getting around the right people.
That hits deep because we are so sold on this idea that you need to hire this, you need a big team, you need more people around you. And in reality, when you have such a large network of people that know what they're doing, they could give you advice for free without you having to spend so much money on hiring the wrong people that have the wrong intentions. Obviously, when you're hiring someone, they truly just want to make money, right? But then when you have better friends, they can give you advice that is genuine and unique to you, that is not self-serving, but also very much helpful to your vision that they see and they're willing to support you about. So Judy was never a mentor. She maybe has become one as a result, but she's just a really good friend.
So how do you keep your circle so high level now? How do you gatekeep your friendship circle to make sure everyone is there for the right reasons?
I am a high value person and I show up as a high value friend. And so when you're vibrating at such a high level of energy, you will repel certain people away from you because they either can feel that they're not meant to be around you. Maybe I repel them because I have this like sort of like aura to me that is quite closed because I'm not gonna open myself to anyone that ever meets me. And I'm just a nice person that has really good intentions and people can see that. And so I've been able to attract those people into my life just simply by being myself and being authentic, I guess. And that means me not having filter, me being very honest about what I'm struggling with, me being very honest about like how I can help. And so that ended up attracting all of these people for the right reasons as a result. But I never intended to do that. I was just simply trying to just show up as the best version of myself and surrender to the universe and let it give me whatever it has in store for me, and it ended up being the best friendships in the world. You know, I never like, let's say I just became friends with like this really, really amazing entrepreneur, but I'm not gonna start showing him off on social media because that is self-serving. But what I'm gonna do is see how I can become useful, helpful, and resourceful so I can help him get to his best self, because ultimately that's what I want for all my friends, and as a result that's what I want them to want from me. We're all a mirror to everyone. So what I am, what you are. So what you're reflecting at me is how I am being to you, right? So if you take that in life if I am showing love and I am love, I'm going to receive love. If I am care, I'm going to receive care. And I think that is a very special way of networking and just growing a friendship group, because we are so stuck again in this self-serving society that we just want something out of someone. I just want everybody to succeed, you know? And I hope that they want that for me as well. Because I've always craved community. I never wanted the millions. I never wanted success like that. I just wanted to feel like I belonged. And to me, that is the most precious thing I could ever have. And that just reflects in the amazing friends I do have now.
I completely agree. I think if you can gather an incredible group of people and not show them off, I think that's a really key part. The Diary of a CEO podcast that we touched on already with Daniel Priestley and Stephen Bartlett on Monday. And I'm seeing Dan in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to talk to him about it because he talked about the importance of not trying to become an influencer, but becoming an authority, right? Yeah. But the point is that if you're an influencer, you just show off your lifestyle. You just talk about the things where you've won, and you show off to everyone. Like, I've met this person, which is also where I think people go wrong with podcasting, because they're like, look at my group of people that I've had on, and they think that's the win, but no one will listen to that if the conversation's not good and if the trust isn't there. Because people ultimately come for the conversation that they know is going to be good. They don't care about one guest or one host. They want the whole thing. And I think that if you can help those people, like you're saying, if you can help the person that you're talking to, you can help them with the friendship by getting them to do other things, open gates for them, right? The best person you can meet is someone who's genuinely trying to help you and will open gates for you for no reason other than they just think it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I guess what the question would be is, what's the difference between doing that, so trying to keep everyone internally happy in a friendship group, and marketing? Because there's a line there that you need to not cross. Mm-hmm. But you have to get near to it in order to benefit, I guess, for your business or for your personal brand.
So, like, how can you leverage your network to grow?
Yeah.
Is that a question? Yeah. So, of course, there's a line, but I think most people view networking, obviously, as a way to get ahead, and that is a fact. Like, I've done that before. That's how I built my own businesses. But the thing is, I already had my core skill, I already had my core offer, and I already had my core clientele. My friends and my connections, they just served as an amplifier of what I was already doing, right? So I never asked anyone, because that maybe just had been my ego, for a reference, like, or a referral, or more clients, or like help. But being so good, or like just, you know, continuing to put in the reps in my work, they, as a result, offered me help, resources, tools, etc. Not because I asked, but because they wanted to. And again, it's like I was so vibrating in my own energy that I was just so fulfilled and so abundant within myself. And that abundance then just reflects in you. It's like the law of attraction. It's like, you know, be the most abundant self that you could be, and then you will attract more abundance, because all you see is abundance. There's no scarcity in my mind. It's only growth. And people want to be around winners. People want to be around people that have that growth mindset, that they never feel like there's something that they're going to be lacking, you know? And so people just come and offer you things. I also do that for them.
You can see that in so many people, right? Once you start winning, people want to come around you. Then I think the thing that we've learned is it's really, really important then to gatekeep who you let into that circle, which you have touched on it with friends, but other people you want to help just because you're a nice person. And they're going to ask, like, the classic line at the minute is, can I pick your brains? So I think Lauren Tickner said, like, pick my brains is now $1,000 for her. Like, you can't pick her brains because she spent all this money and time building up this knowledge. So pick my brains is just saying, can I have some free stuff? Mm-hmm. So I guess what I want to talk about is community, right? Because your business is based a lot around community now. And so how do you look after and maintain a beneficial and loving community that are loyal to your brand?
So this was actually very complicated for me. I actually ended up burning out when I started building the communities, because I am a very giving and loving person, and I want everybody else to win, right? But there is like so many variables in every single person's life that could, you know, change that result. Like, you know, someone could be going to hospital and maybe they're not able to grow because of this thing. Someone may not be getting success because they're like in a different, state in their life where they don't even have a business, so they can't even start monetizing, but they did sign up to the community because of this, right? So many variables, and it stressed me out because I'm like, I really want this to work, but I was doing myself a disservice by doubling down the effort in reducing how much content I was creating and how I was showing off. So when it came to then going into the community space, I set very strong boundaries of what I was meant to be doing in the community, because I realized that in order for me to show up as my best self in this community, I need to be my best self in real life. And that means taking care of my health, showing up with the best information possible, curating the best information, distilling it for them, and then explaining it to them. But to me, that doesn't mean hanging out with them in the community every single day and talking to them, checking in on them. Did you do your homework? No, because realistically, I would be doing people such a disservice if I was trying to hold their hand. Did you post your post today? Like, that is cool. And I would love that. And maybe in the future, I could build a product, a SaaS, that kind of like tracks people's, activity and gets them going. But no one did that for me. And if they did it, I would just become like so used to someone holding my hand that by the time someone stops, I wouldn't know what to do. So I really tried to go for that approach, but then I realized like this model is based on my success, and my success was hard, long, and it took a lot of time, and it needs to be that for them. Otherwise, they're not gonna like appreciate it. They're not gonna get the reps in for them to grow, and it's not gonna help them. So then, strong boundary. I'm gonna show up in the community a few days of the week. We have a bunch of community managers anyway that they can talk to, that they know everything about me, even better than myself at this point. And so we have the best team inside. We have me once a week talking live to them, replying to their questions. I'll hop in like 3 times a week with a Loom, with some value add, with some extra knowledge, and reply to very important questions. But beyond that, I am not going to be chatting around, because if you're chatting around in the community for too long, then what else are you doing? Like, it's taking time away from what you should be doing. And so I actually try and, demotivate people from spending so much time in the community and actually doing the right things. And we've seen amazing success by people who are doing that. Like, people are going crazy viral, like getting like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 retainers already just by being in a community. And that again shows this thing called the law of proximity, that by being around these amazing people, then you become amazing as a default. For sure.
And there's also the power index, right? Like if you show up every single day, they're like, I've got Lara every day, and you become less and less special. So like, Matt Gray and Ali Abdaal. So Matt Gray's advice to Ali Abdaal, which helped him grow Part-Time YouTube Academy so quickly, was rather than showing up in his community every day, you do a live Q&A once a month. And it increased the amount of the conversion. Yeah. Because they're like, I get to see Ali once a month. Wow. Whereas if you see Ali every day, they're like, it's not as cool. It's the same as in an office, right? If you sit in with your team in an office, there's not enough power index. So they're going to start to misbehave over time. Yeah. Whereas if you see them once or twice a week, or you go to different meetings, you're in and out, the power builds. And we all need that. You need that level of power to keep it special. Surely because yours is based off your own success, right? Yeah. So they need to see that you're busy, you're looking after yourself, you're doing that kind of stuff. That's really, really interesting. So where do you think people go wrong when they're trying to build communities, other than showing up too much? What do you think they do doesn't resonate with people? Not everybody needs a community. That's definitely true. We're in the community era right now. I've seen so many videos about this, like, we're in the community building era, and I'm like, are we really? Or is this like just a new word? What I find is that, the words personal branding, community, everybody's like, oh, they're so overused. And I'm like, yeah, so was SMMA 3 years ago. Yeah. So was dropshipping. We go through seasons where like it's the same thing, just repackaged in a different way, right? So personal branding, what is it in reality? It's just like authority at scale. It's social media content for professionals. It's something else, right? But we're just giving them nice words. What is a community? People that will buy from you at some point. Like you could also call it an email list if you wanted to, So not everybody needs a community. Not everybody's suited to build a community. Not everybody has to have one. What you need to have is, people that want to buy from you, whether they're in an email list, that's your email list community, whether like they're in a school group or whatever, like Discord, WhatsApp group, whatever. That's what you need, like people that actually want to buy from you. So
with there's like two types of communities: the paid one, where you like mine, or like a social media one, where people just want to follow you for you, and then ultimately some of them will convert to your products. You know, people go wrong with community building because they aren't being personal enough. They're not sharing stories. They're not being relatable. How the biggest communities in the world are, like, even look at Hierarchs. Hierarchs has one of the largest communities right now, fastest growing I've ever seen, because people are coming together from various different backgrounds for one single purpose, and that's to get better, that's to improve themselves, that's to become stronger, right? So then when you find that similar value that tells a story, because obviously someone wants to lose weight, because what does that make them feel? They feel like shit. Okay, so we all share that similar value. Like, we don't want to feel like shit anymore. We're all in this together, and we're going to push each other to do that, right? With communities, especially with personal branding, people neglect this thing, which is, what is the value that we're sharing? People focus too much on the education, and that's amazing, because education is everything. Education is power, you know? But we also need the story to retain them. What is the story that we're telling them that they need to stay for? It's like a cult, you know? Religion, Christianity is like the largest cult we know, because it brings people together under this story about, you know, improvement, love, being better. And there's many reasons and different stories why people come to church and sit there every single Sunday. But the main reason is community, and that because they're aligned in the similar things. So people forget that.
I completely agree. Like, people want communities as they see the buzzword. In the same way as at the minute, I'm so bored of seeing people talking about entrepreneurship when they've never launched a product. Like, that does my head in, because I think people just want, they're entrepreneurs, right? They think, even the word entrepreneur is starting to be overused.
Yeah.
Like, entrepreneur literally means you have an idea that you then put into practice and expect to be made profitable from. That's what it literally means. People think that they can just say they've got a community, or they've got an email list, like you say, and they can say the word entrepreneur, not on their Instagram. I think it's so frustrating. But you're completely right, that it's just around a common purpose, right? And if you're not interested in that purpose, it's not going to work. So taking the community piece and turning that into what LinkedIn is, community platform, what would you say to someone who thinks they're too late for LinkedIn, or that LinkedIn has become icky?
LinkedIn will always be icky. It will always be a cringy platform. Like, it is rooted on the 9-to-5 professional life. So there is so much ick to that. I cannot remove that. I am so sorry. That is not my thing. But what I do is talk about, if you're not cringing, you're not doing it right? So if I look back at my first powerlifting video, like, I am literally, you know, arching my back trying to deadlift. That is cringy. But then I look at a video of me deadlifting 140 kilos. That's not cringy. That was really cool. But it took me so many cringe thingies to then become a good person that does cool things, right? So I think people judge LinkedIn way too much, because it's rooted, I think, in so much trauma, potentially. Like, you go to LinkedIn to get rejected. Like, you go to LinkedIn to see all the job rejections you got. You go to LinkedIn because you're urging for a job, and then you get what you get in return. You see your ex-boyfriend that, like, living his best life. You see your ex-friend getting that job promotion while you're at home, right? So that, I think that's why people have this innate hatred towards LinkedIn. And also, like, the culture that is very professional, very corporate, so it just doesn't feel authentic. And also, people can't smell right through that, because we have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where people are actually just talking like they do, right? But on LinkedIn, it's like this professional lingo, but it's slowly, you know, shifting into more of like a actual social media platform. And the problem people have right now is that people think that LinkedIn is gone. People think that we're too late to go into the LinkedIn game. The problem is, we're still so early to the game. Like, over 1 billion users, only 1 to 2% are posting every single week. Like, if you think that's late, I don't know what late means to you.
1 to 2 million?
1 to 2%.
Out of 1 billion?
Yeah. So we're not late. We're so early. The golden era of LinkedIn has just started, and we're just scratching the surface, right? And so when people say, like, oh, it's oversaturated already, it's too failed, people already, like, growing so much, like, there's no way. I'm like, yes, there is a way, 100%. Saturation only means that there's demand, right? And there's an over demand and an under supply for content. And if you start posting today for 5 days, every single week, like I did myself 2 years ago for 3 months straight, then you're gonna see a massive change, not just in your life, but also in your professional life, and even in your mindset, because you get to be around. You're only one connection away from your dream connection, your dream CEO, an investor, a dream, like your best influencer. Like I met Simon Squeb this week, and we're only one connection away. Now we're just one, like we're friends now, like we're connections. So it only took that, and that is like the realization that LinkedIn is the best platform anyone could go on right now because of the proximity to the best people. It's the wealthiest network we currently have. And so if you double down on this right now, when everybody already thinks it's too saturated or it's too late, you're gonna be still early by the time it's actually too late.
Yeah, like one thing I always put LinkedIn down to, like there's no way we would have had the guests we've had on this podcast without LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is the only platform that I've ever really posted on.
Oh, cool.
And what I think is really interesting, to your point there, is that if someone starts a business today, it doesn't really matter what age, they're going to go, okay, we need to post on Instagram. Instagram's got like, what, 2-3 billion users? Way more content than LinkedIn, but they'll go to that one. And I don't really understand why someone would say LinkedIn's not the right place. Sure, if you're B2B, talking B2B or business, you're a business owner. But it's still weird that they would still go towards Facebook or Instagram over LinkedIn, which, like you say, is so early in its infancy. Mm-hmm. I don't really get that. I don't really get what people's stigma is. Maybe because they've been on it 20 years trying to get jobs and now it's changed and they didn't get it.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the oldest social media platform. Like it's been that for 20 years. And I think people lean on to Instagram and TikTok because it's what people are telling them to do, right? No one's telling people to go on LinkedIn. Like, besides for me, but I will shout about LinkedIn all the time. But people think that Instagram is easier or TikTok because 1 is what they know, 2 is what people are telling them, and 3, it just feels like the best way to kind of like get the most out of what you're doing. But LinkedIn just makes the most sense. It made the most sense for me because I saw the saturation right there and I was like, let's go.
And with your social media background and your, I was going to say dopamine addiction. You like dopamine, right? So you understand a lot of these. I
love dopamine.
You understand lots of these different algorithms. But how important do you think it is for someone to master one platform before going across the rest of them? Because repurposing doesn't seem to work. And like, how important is it to do that?
It's the most important thing. I don't think I would have had such fast success within the last 2.5 years, going from 0 to 220,000 followers on LinkedIn in that space, multi millions of like impressions every single month. If I didn't focus on this thing called the rule of one platform, one topic, one niche, one post a day, right? That is a single rule people need to be using to actually double down and grow as fast as possible. There's so much noise about, you need to have this multi-channel like operation. You need to post on Instagram, YouTube, podcast, short form, long form. And I'm like, if you haven't even nailed how to write for one platform, how to create content for one platform, what makes you think that you're going to be able to nail 5 different ones with very different audiences, algorithms, cultures, topics, and even like formats? There is no way. So for me, I'm a grifter. Like I'm a hard worker and I will just take what I got. And like the lowest hanging fruit for me was realizing I need to figure out how this works and then figure out the rest. I didn't have a niche when I started. I didn't even have a business model. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was there for a single reference. So having that, like, I had no ego. I had no, like, there was no stakes. I was like, take it or leave it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So by honing in on LinkedIn, I was like, I'm gonna try and figure out what I could write about, figure out my niche, then I figure out how to create content, then I figure out how to create viral content, then I figure out how to get clients, right? That was like my own little journey. And in that, I was so focused on the one thing, and that was LinkedIn. Everything else became noise. I literally deleted all my social media from my phone. I blocked it, like I logged out of everything. I just didn't have any more social media because I just wanted to put my full intention onto LinkedIn. Not because I thought it was going to be the best platform, but it was just the platform I was going all in on. And people need to stop, trying to be Alex Osmosi and Gary Vee. They have multi-million-dollar teams that can repurpose all the content. We don't, especially when you're just starting or you're a small business, or even if you're like a multi-million business, you still need to figure out like what is actually resonating with your audience. And the best way to do is test it out in one platform. And then you guess what? You repurpose everything else onto all the platforms. Every single one of my YouTube videos now is a script taken from my LinkedIn content, right? So
there you go.
Most people think that I started from scratch. No, I tested the ideas and validated them first. And then I iterated them and repurposed them onto other platforms. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't just lock in and do LinkedIn for the first year and a half, 2 years.
I think so many people need to hear that when they're business owners, because they underestimate what they can do in the long term and they overestimate what they can do in the short term.
Yeah.
And so they just zoom right in and go, right, I'm going to do LinkedIn for a month, then I'll move to Instagram. But actually, if they just do what you're saying there, which is just lock in, and like you say, a year is probably not long enough for someone to understand what you do. You probably don't understand what you do as a, not talking to you, you're a business owner. Over a year, you probably don't know what you do, really. Your audience definitely don't know. There's that great story from Hormozy where he spent like 10 million launching his second book, got hundreds of millions of impressions over a year to launch it. In the week before the launch, he asked something like 13 people that he bumped into, are you coming to the launch? None of them knew he had a book coming out. And he was like, how? And it's the same thing with the Henry Ford story where he was bored of the advertising before it even launched. He wanted the marketing manager to not put this car advert out. And he said, I've not launched it yet. You're just bored of it. Same. Lara, you strike me as a deep thinker, right? You've got lots of frameworks in your head of like how you've got from here to here and lots of spirituality in there. What would you say to someone, a business owner, who is just at this glass ceiling of wanting to become more known for what they do, but they don't know how to get there? There's a blocker. What would you think? What would you say to them?
I always think about, we all, like, you can go to ChatGPT and ask it for a LinkedIn strategy. Like, everybody can do that. What the internet and ChatGPT can't do for you is find your own fair advantages. And that is a single level that will help you scale your brand and yourself. A lot of people are either too shy or like too humble to share their experiences. Back to my friend Jody. Like, I was like, mate, you've got all of these things, and why are you not talking about them? She's like, I'm already too bored of it. Like, I'm a fourth starter in the 30, but like that was like X years ago. And I'm like, yeah, you still were.
Yeah.
I'm a powerlifter. Yeah. So like, talk about it more. Sold and exited a business. That to me was very, very important. And to Jody, she already done that. And I think in her, like in our lives, like we leave things, like obviously it's first hand, and then we were bored of them. Like I have that with like my journey of like how I booked a 1-ticket flight and then never looked back. That's super interesting to someone else. To me, I'm like, yeah, that was 10 years ago, you know, but someone else is inspiring. So then is sitting down and reflecting every single achievement that you ever possibly had that could mean something to your old self. And how I framed it to Jody was like, look, like I'm a 26-year-old, 25-year-old at the time, a girl that is looking for inspiration, and seeing all of these achievements is giving that to me, because if you did it, I think I can do it. And I think that reframed helped her see that it wasn't about her, it was about them. It was about people like me. And so think about your experiences not as a way of bragging, but as a way of inspiring others. I think that is the biggest thing that can help entrepreneurs, especially successful ones, or that have seen a lot of like growth in their business, that help a lot of people every single day, to kind of like reflect back on like, I have this authority that I can use to my advantage to get ahead. You know, we can all get ahead. Like people think that getting ahead is bad, but it's not. It's what you should be doing if you want to have your biggest purpose and like get the most success you possibly can using what you already got. And so a lot of people go ahead and hire all these teams and try and, you know, go multi-platform and start a YouTube channel and start this thing from scratch, but you already have so much within you. And so finding those things that are good for you, like your unfair advantages, like what is it? Maybe you sold a business, maybe you started a business from scratch, maybe you were broke and now you know, maybe you retired your mom. All of these little things that maybe mean nothing to you, they mean something to someone else, right? And the best way to get these out is to talk to your friends, because they will see things in you that you don't see in yourself, especially if you have good friends. And then the second thing is understanding how to use authority to bias people into thinking that you're an authority even more. So I always use something like, you know, I got featured in Forbes at 25, you know, or I spoke in front of 1,000 people over the weekend, or, you know, this is how I went viral 24 times in the last 3 weeks, right? These are small elements of authority that separate you from a ChatGPT post or like a Pinterest quote or whatever it is. So it's finding those things that truly make you unique. You know, if you worked in Silicon Valley, that's really cool. You know, you need to say things like, and again, it's not about bragging. It's about simply sharing.
That's the thing I was going to bring back around to. It's almost what you said right at the start, where it was like there's a thin line between oversharing and being a narcissist. But actually, you, like you said there, you can be high authority by talking about the cool stuff, and it's still not going to shine a light on you. And if you're listening to this and you want to see more of that, then go onto Lara's YouTube channel and watch the one with Jodie Cook, because that is such a good video. The one around.
Oh, we had so much fun writing that.
It's a really, really good one.
Thank you.
Lara, that was such a cool episode. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you like these episodes, feel free to subscribe to our Healthy Hustle newsletter below, where you'll get behind the scenes information from our guests, as well as from the studio operator who helps us create these cinematic episodes. It's also full of business advice and tips, and it will help you join the community of healthy entrepreneurs.